I don't know how many times I've said I was working on Oxid, but here we are, finally talking about this strange old piece of shareware. Hey, at least I post more often than Spoony. Oxid is a 1990 game from Dongleware Verlags, a German game development studio. Oxid was originally made for the Atari ST, then ported to Amiga, DOS, Macintosh, and NeXT computers in 1992. Guess which version we're playing. If you answered anything other than Macintosh, then this must be your first time here. Hello and welcome to Gamer Mouse. I'm basically a colossal nerd. Oxid is actually a sequel to an Atari ST game, Esprit, and spawned a couple of freeware spin-offs, Oxid Extra and Oxid Extra 2, the latter seeming to be Windows only for some reason. A commercial spin-off, Oxid Magnum, and a shareware sequel, PurOxid, also known as Oxid 2. So this was actually a pretty big series. There's also a modern version called Enigma and a Palm game called Mulg, and I'm hearing about an Oxid 3D coming out at some point in the future. Will I get to any of these others at some point? Maybe. I wish I could show you the Oxid Magnum box, but I don't have it, which is a shame because it's really neat. LGR has it, and I'm definitely not jealous at all. So close. I do have the original's code book, though. Speaking of the code books, there's a reason this company is called Dongleware, and it's not to make dirty jokes in the comments. The term dongle, while often used for small add-on devices now, is actually referring to a hardware copy protection scheme in which a coded device has to be plugged in for the software to function, generally used for expensive software such as, say, professional-level audio production software, or things like the digital Volkswagen parts catalog, go figure. I learn new things every day. The same sort of thing applies here, except it takes an approach to shareware I'm not sure I've seen before or since. The game itself is free and you're actively encouraged to distribute it, like a lot of shareware. However, anywhere past Landscape 10 and you start running into what the manual calls magic tokens, for which you need the codes in said manual to remove, meaning you'll have to buy this code book to get anywhere. The manual is a bit of a strange read. There's bits like this Oxid SOS line, only open on Thursday between 5 and 8 p.m. I'm almost certain it's a joke. So the game is free, the code books are $39. Yeah, it's a bit steep for a shareware game, and you generally had to mail order these things, so good luck finding them. I tracked down the owner of the Oxid Yahoo group, and he was kind enough to sell me one. And no, I don't have the book for PurOxid. It was enough of a pain tracking down this one. Luckily, you can find the codebooks online now, but this happened only recently, in the past couple of years or so. Keep in mind the game came out in 1990, and this video is out in 2017. 27 years and the codebooks were only copied a few years ago. The code pages are made purposely hard to scan, much like blueprint pages. Even if you have a physical copy of the book, these can sometimes be quite hard to read, so maybe there's a reason no one else tried this. Yes, this was a long tangent, but it's a unique aspect about Oxid, say that 3 times fast, I'm not sure anyone else is going to talk about. And strangely, Oxid Magnum, the commercial boxed version, doesn't use a codebook. But now that we've talked about copy protection of all things for an entire page of review, let's actually talk about the game itself. Oxid supports a variety of computers in both monochrome and 16 colors. Often the monochrome graphics will be higher resolution, but we are, of course, playing on the superior platform, so we get high-res color graphics as well. Oxid and PurOxid each have 200 landscapes, 100 single-player and 100 multiplayer. Oxid Magnum adds another 100, and the 2 Oxid Extra games have 30 each. So that's 560 levels in total, 360 single-player and 200 multiplayer. That is a lot of content, so we're just going over Oxid's 100 single-player levels for now, maybe brush over the multiplayer a little bit. I might do more later, might not, who knows. I never really do anymore. Believe it or not, Oxid does have a story to it. According to the manual, you're actually exploring the landscapes of the hidden world inside your computer in the guise of a small glass marble. But the Oxids, the objects you're trying to match, have closed overnight, and they're the source of the computer world's oxygen, because a computer world needs that for some reason, so it's your job to open them and save the world inside your computer. That's funny, I'd have imagined the inside of my computer a little bit differently, but maybe that's just me. There are also sketches and hints from one Dr. Mouseclick, which are necessary to complete certain levels. Other than that, it's figuring out what items do what, building bridges, reflecting lasers, applying charges, shooting other marbles like pool balls, and various other activities to make your way through the landscapes. Every 10 levels, you'll also hit a meditation landscape, where you'll want to be more careful than usual with your mouse movements to guide several smaller marbles into various pockets at the same time. And you know what? It's pretty fun. While it does require some good mouse dexterity at some points, which, by the way, means you need the Basilisk 142 build with more complete mouse emulation again, it will generally give you time to think between the dexterous moments so you don't usually feel overwhelmed, and every level will have a passcode to be able to visit it later. Oh, and by the way, you can't use mine. No, that isn't me telling you not to cheat, I mean you literally can't. You see, once you complete level 10, the first meditation landscape and the point when you start seeing the game's copy protection, the game will then generate the codes beyond that. This means that every computer, unless you have a cracked copy or something, will have its own codes. This also means that you shouldn't complete level 10 again, at least not outside the time trial mode, or the codes will be reset again. To be fair, the manual does warn you about this, but it's still a rather baffling decision. Nothing that makes or breaks the game to me, just make sure to write down all your codes for the timed mode. And yes, the game has a timed mode to let you record your times, and apparently the Oxid SOS line is a real thing, because people could call it with confirmation codes to prove you aren't cheating. I don't know if there were Oxid players hardcore enough to suspect there was cheating going on in the quest for Oxid speedrunning, but there we go. The levels tend to scale up pretty well. It's easy enough to finish early levels in a big string. Later levels, while I usually didn't hit any real brick walls of progress, there were certainly levels that took a fair amount of attempts. I will say that having to look up the codes can get annoying when you're retrying a bunch, especially with this thick code book. The manual says they appear less the more you enter, but I'm not so convinced that's the case. A lot of the puzzles you can see for yourself from this footage how they work. There's certain items that are explained in-game rather than in the manual, like these glasses here. The game gives a hint with a movie, Invasion Los Angeles. If you're lost, don't worry, so was I. This is actually an international title for the movie They Live, and now you probably know what the glasses do. Especially if you played Bart vs. the Space Mutants. If not, go watch They Live, it's an interesting movie. There's also lots of hazards. There's bottomless pits, water, and quicksand, which kill you instantly, quickly, and slowly, respectively. And there's various enemies, tiles that apply electric charge, tiles that invert your controls, items to make you float, jump, turn invisible for no good reason. Basically what I'm saying is there's a lot here. Heck, I completed the game and I still don't know what some of these items do. Also, I should probably mention F3 lets you restart a level. Why would you do that? Well, some levels are Sokoban-like, which means these can become unwinnable easily, but most levels are at least somewhat easy to figure out, or at least have hints in the game or manual. But given you have to match randomly generated oxids, there will always be trial and error, and some levels later can get quite repetitive. There is one crown jewel of supreme BS, though. And the best part is some people might never end up running into it. See, one particular level comes with a note that says, "Only open during business hours." I was confused, and was noticing one of the oxids was impossible to get to. So on a whim, I changed my clock from the butt crack of dawn, when I generally record these things, to the middle of the day, and hey, the level was relatively easily beaten. Yes, for this level you have to have your clock set between 8 AM and 4 PM, or you'll literally never be able to beat it. Like I said, you may not run into it at all, but I sure did. Still, I can't fault the game too much for trying things like that. I did have fun through the whole thing. Looking to the manual for sketched out hints in certain levels was actually kind of neat. This isn't going to be a walkthrough type of review like I usually tend to do, because that would just take forever with this game. I suggest, if you like puzzle games, that you grab the version of your preference, get the codebook and manual from the Macintosh Garden, grab your favorite drink, and enjoy yourself. If you get the multiplayer working, drag a friend in with you, despite the manual suggestions to the contrary. Oh, and be prepared for Landscape 100 to take a good long while to beat, because it's a gauntlet of a level. Possibly turn up your mouse sensitivity, you might need it for the quicksand. There's your hint. This is Tanara Karanov, and up next, I think I found something interesting yet infuriating, and obscure as all heck. Yeah, exactly what this channel was made for. Till next time. Thanks for watching through to the end. If you enjoyed this, here's some other puzzle games for you. And if you really like this stuff, check out the links below for social media, Discord, Telegram, or even Patreon. The revolution will be on Macintosh.